Well, hello everyone. So Christmas is over for most of us, but for the baby Jesus, he's still getting some gifts. Today we're going to talk about the wise men. So on Wednesday it was Epiphany, and that is the time when the wise men came to visit baby Jesus. In our story, which I'm going to read to you, they had to follow a really bright star. And during the month of December, we think that when Saturn was so bright that was actually the star perhaps that they followed back in biblical times. So if you go to Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12, that talks about the time when the wise men came. This is my nativity, and I leave it up until the very, very end because technically my wise men just got there. They just got there on Wednesday. So these are my wise men, and we're going to talk some about what they brought. But I'll read you the story first, and then we're going to have a show and tell. Next year, when we're all back together, I'll pass these things around so that you can feel them, and I think you'll enjoy it. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is what are wise men? Are they just really smart people? Because wise means you have a lot of knowledge. Well, I'm sure they were very smart. They were scholarly people, but they were actually what we call magi. And that means that they were kings and they were astronomers or astrologers. They studied the stars. That's why that bright star was so important to them. When you go on a family trip, probably your parents either get some kind of a map, or maybe you look on the internet and figure out the best way to go, or maybe you use a navigation device in your car. Well, their camels did not have any of those items. They actually had to look up into the sky and follow the stars. And that's how people used to travel. That's how people on the ocean would also navigate through. I mean, because when you're on the ocean, there aren't red lights and signs that say this way here, this way there, this way to the Caribbean, this way up towards Canada. You have to navigate. And these days we have, the navigation devices. They have computers and things that read it. But back then you didn't. You used the sky or you used landmarks. So this was how the wise men knew to find where baby Jesus was. I'm going to do an activity that I think will be fun that you can do. And I've got some other activities that you can just download. But first, let's get into our story of the wise men. Again, it's Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. So this is their star. And it says, on a cool, clear evening, 3 wise men looked into the night sky and saw a bright star. The wise men had been waiting for someone important to come into the world. They were waiting for a king. They knew that the star was a sign from God. The star is a sign that the king has been born, the shortest one said. We should follow the star and find him, the tallest one said. I'll pack our bags, the middle one said. They left their homes and traveled far to meet this new baby king. They wanted to worship him and to give him gifts. Along the way, they stopped and visited King Herod, the ruler of that land. We are following the star to find the baby king, they told King Herod. Do you know where he is? When King Herod heard that the baby king had been born, he was afraid. He thought the baby would grow up and take over. Then Herod wouldn't be the king anymore. So King Herod spoke to the wise men. He pretended to be nice. Herod told the wise men, I would like to meet the new baby king. Why don't you go find him and come back here and tell me where he is? And then I can go and worship him too. So there they are. See, they're going on their little journey. King Herod's up here. He's sending them off, probably spying a little bit, trying to figure out which way they're going. So the wise men kept following the star to find the baby. They finally found Jesus, Mary, and Joseph in Bethlehem. They were quiet so they wouldn't wake baby Jesus. They knelt beside his bed. He was so tiny. They kissed his little cheek. Sleep well, little one, they said, and they left him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Those were very expensive gifts. They were gifts fit for a king. Later, the wise men decided it was time to go home. They were planning to tell King Herod where they found baby Jesus, but God sent an angel to talk to them in a dream. The angel told them that King Herod was dangerous, so they went home a different way instead. Jesus was, indeed, a new baby king who surprised the wise men and frightened King Herod. Jesus was God's surprise and promise born for us, a gift to all people. So you probably got some surprises on Christmas morning in your gifts, and this was our gift from God. This is our baby Jesus. And here are our wise men with gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So these would be the containers with the frankincense and myrrh. And I'm going to show you what frankincense and myrrh look like because it's kind of an odd thing, right? So I'm going to do some descriptions. This is probably the gold just in this little box there. So the frankincense and myrrh, they are a type of they're a type of resin. You find them in a tree, and the tree that you can find them in, it's hollowed out. They're fragrant gum resins, and they're in oriental trees found only in Oman, Yemen, and East Africa. So this is my box. This is my box where I have the frankincense and myrrh, and this is what it looks like. So these little pieces, I'm trying to smell it. It doesn't really smell that much, but they're fragrant. So they would have had them in these little like incense burners that they have down here. That's where they would have been. So I'll show you them because when they're ground up, because there they are in the whole form. So I have them right here. This is the frankincense. So I'm going to put a little bit in my hand. And like I said, when we get back into church together, I have these that we can kind of put in a bowl and just kind of look. You can see it's just little bits. It looks like little bits of rock, and it doesn't really smell like a lot, but I have gotten before some essential oils that are frankincense and myrrh. And so next year, next Christmas time, my hope is that we're together, which of course we will be, and I am going to put some of those scents on a cotton ball so we can see what they smell like. So this was our frankincense. I always think that's a funny word. It makes me think of Frankenstein. And this is the myrrh, and it's darker. The myrrh is darker. Trying to see, it doesn't really smell either. It smells a little like cedary, almost. So that's something we'll do when we get back together because it is kind of fun. So that's what they got. So how excited would you have been on Christmas morning if you got up and opened these rocks? Not very exciting, huh? But for a king, that was the good thing. So that is what they brought them. They knelt down and worshiped him, and they opened their treasures, and they presented him the gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So a lot of the frankincense and myrrh they used for healing, have been actually considered more valuable than gold, believe it or not, which I find a little crazy. And they have secret and medicinal qualities. So they would use them for somebody if they were injured or ill. And so these were very prized possessions that they had. So that is our frankincense and myrrh. And I think we all know what gold looks like. People have gold jewelry and things like that. So one thing that we're going to do is we're going to, make a star of our own. So one thing that we can do is talk about how they followed this star. And I used to love to do, did you ever do shadow animals on the wall where you would take a flashlight and then you could make little shadow prints? Well, we're going to do that, but we're going to do it with a star. So I drew what I think the Star of Bethlehem would look like. I don't know if you can see it very well, but I like the tall one. So I did that. So you can draw your star. You can do this or the 5-pointed star, and then take a pencil and you just kind of poke little teeny holes all the way through. Have you ever done what, like those light bright things? And see, I'm poking little bitty holes, and you follow the lines all the way up, and you poke it you make sure that you don't connect them at all. You just poke all the way up. And when you poke, then you're going to take your flashlight and you can shine it through. And you can shine it on a wall, because I'm trying to shine it through my wall. It's not dark enough quite yet, but you can shine it through and then you'll see an outline of your star. So that's a fun activity that you can do at home. You could also do the activities that I have listed online. There's 2 other activities. One's a coloring page and one's a whole packet. But that was a neat one about how to talk about how they followed it, because they had to look up in the night sky. So just think, when it was cloudy, they didn't get there very fast. So when you give gifts to somebody, it's to honor somebody. You give them something that you think that they would like or need, or something that reminds you of those people. And that's why they gave such fancy gifts to a king. So I'm going to talk about a gift chain. And even though Christmas is over, maybe this is something you can do. On strips of paper, write or draw out different ways that your family can help others. And you can staple them into rings and make a paper chain. Have you all ever done those paper chain links where you take one sheet of paper and then you loop it onto the next? You staple them and then you add them. So you would write on the outside something that you could do. And it doesn't have to be to people outside your family. It can be for people inside of your family. For instance, today I was overwhelmed and one of my kids vacuumed for me and did all that. So maybe it can be something that you want to do. So we'll call it a gift chain, or we can even call it, a task chain, something to help others, or a helping chain. So that would be a fun family activity for everyone to do, is to make a chain of ideas for something that you could give to something else. And it's not monetary, it's not something physical you give, it's something you do. So I think that would be a lovely idea for at home. And especially now, there's some people who after the new year think, I want to get a lot of things done. Maybe you could get together as a family and think about what those things are. And maybe you could also talk about helping out, your fellow man, contributing to a food bank, all those kinds of things. So I think all of those are great activities. I hope that you had a lovely holiday. I miss you very much. And I hope you enjoyed our story of the wise men. My nativity scene is going to be put away now because it's past Epiphany. But I have enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed learning the Christmas story all over again. Next year, I'd like for us to put our nativity together when we're all in person, and we'll add the characters as they come each week when we talk about them. So have a wonderful rest of your week and your Sunday, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye-bye.